What we're going to do is I'm going to show you one of the ways to get SAP data into Primavera. And before you can do that, you have to actually build all the dictionary files, which is activity codes, resources, roles, and some of the internal structures to Primavera. In order to do this, we're going to use the SDK, and we're going to move the data through the SDK. There's actually 3 SDKs, but 2 we'll be working with today. And one of those SDKs is the work breakdown structure. The other is the actual dictionary files itself. Once I get the WBS and all that stuff cleaned up, we're going to move the activities. So in this illustration, you see 2 flowcharts. One going from SAP through Excel into Prima through the SDK, and one actually with the activities or the detail behind that structure. So in this next clip, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you actually how to get that Excel spreadsheet cleaned up. So once you run your transaction out of SAP, we're going to have to clean that coding up. And in this illustration here, you're going to see 2 tabs. This is an IW38. We've got the actual work orders themselves, and the operations or all the detail. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the work order and the work order description, and I'm going to put it on its own sheet. I don't like the original one that comes from SAP. I don't like messing with that one, so I put that on its own. So I copy the work orders and the work order descriptions over, and you're going to see a little thing I do here. I like to clean it up. This is one thing I like about this is we can go in and like equals proper, so we can clean it up, and all the capital letters that are in there, we can clean the structure and just get it right. So I'll fill this data down, and once I get this filled down, I'm going to take and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it special just to override what was there. If I mess anything up, I can always go back to the original file, but this is a new sheet that I'll be saving, and I'm going to name this in a little bit my Primavera dictionary file. And I'll just delete this column. And this is going to be my work order management tab, so all my work orders, I can always come back to here to look at that and illustrate that. The next one I'm going to do, just to show you how the process works again, I do the equipment. So I'll go back to my IW38 out of SAP, and I'm going to grab the equipment, and you'll see I've got the equipment SAP number. Then they actually put the equipment number in the sort field, so I'm going to use that one because that's actually what's on the equipment in the field, and I want everybody on the schedule to actually see this that's going to be updating it. So I grab that number. I'm going to do the same thing, and it equals a proper, and I'm going to clean these fields up as well. So if you want the SAP numbers, remember you can build another activity code that says your code fields, and we can start populating all these fields. But this is setting this up to get the actual dictionary files into the schedule. And I'm just illustrating this with doing the actual work orders, where I'm going to put at the cost accounts, and equipment numbers, which I'll actually put at the activity codes. Let me paste and clean this up. So I've got a couple here, and I would go right on through with all my coding, my structures, everything would be in this and getting ready for my dictionary. And I'm going to save this, and I'm going to call this my Primavera dictionary files. Nope, I already have one in here. I'll just override this one, and then we'll save this, and we'll be ready to go to import. Okay, now next that we have this, I'm going to show you how the SDK works. Once again, there's a little installation guide on how to put this in there, but this is a Primavera tool. You can go to the actual website and download this tool. So if we go back to the work orders, I've got them all set up here. I copied them off the IW38 report, and I've cleaned them up a little bit, and I put them in here. And for some reason, my drop down's not working, but I'm going to open another Excel program, which is the SDK. I'm going to enable the macros in the SDK. And I have to log in exactly like I log into Primavera, and I'm logged in as the admin. So I've got this set up as a super user, so I'll log in. I'm going to update my project list. So you saw it connect to the actual database tables, and my connection's made. So I'm going to go back here into Primavera, go to Enterprise, come down to my cost accounts, and you'll get a little feel for how this works. I'm not going to do every single code and all my stuff, but at least you'll see how this works. So what I like to do is at least get the structure started in Primavera. And I'm going to start off with my cost accounts. I put my work orders here. So my work orders, the description is going to be the actual turnaround name, and the revision will be at the cost account ID. And this is where all my man hours are going to roll to. And I'll put a template or a sample work order here just so I can get a parent-to-child relationship so I can see that in the SDK kit. So I put 1 as a placeholder. I'm going to grab it with the SDK. Well, let me refresh here, and you'll see it refresh real quick. So we want to make sure it populates the database. I'm going to go to my SDK kit. I've got logged in, and I'm going to grab what I just did. So here's the template structure I just set up. Then you're going to see the parent ID, the actual work order number, and the work order description. So now that I see that the structure's here, I'm going to go to my sheet that I've been cleaning up off the IW38, and I'm just going to grab all of these work orders. There's about 340 something work orders here. I'm going to copy every single one of them. And then I'll come over to the actual SDK and I'm going to paste them here. Now, just because I get them pasted in here doesn't mean I'm done. I'm going to have to go in there because I want them to go in hierarchical and have that structure. So I'm going to go ahead and fill down the parent ID, which is it could be your revision code if that's your revision in SAP. And let me go all the way down. You'll see there's 340 something, 45 work orders here. So I'm going to paste that. Go back to the login page, and once I get them all in there, and this takes a matter of minutes, I'll just go back and I'm going to set these to Primavera. So I'm going to set my cost accounts, and you'll see it thinking. I'm going to refresh, hit F5 and refresh your database. And then go to the cost accounts, and you'll see every single cost account populated right there and ready to go. And let me kind of scroll through here and show you what we got. So there's all of them. This next section takes a little bit of time to do, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. But what we're going to do is going to actually scrub down or clean up the activities operations page. And I think in this operations tab, you're going to see I'm on the work order tab here. So I'm going to jump over to all the detail. And generally you have a lot, depending on how many activities. I mean, 500 work orders, you can have 4,000 to 5,000 activities. So once again, I don't like working in this page, so I'm going to copy this out and I'm going to put it on a brand new page. And I'm going to kind of clean this up a little bit. Now, when I paste this, just for SAP purposes, for some reason, the formulas won't work. So I pasted all the values here. So some of the dates may mess up, but I never, ever import dates. I let Primavera do all the calculations for the dates for me. And then some of the fields I'm not using, I'll delete. But I'll continue to clean this sheet up. And some of the, like the functional location, if I already put the functional location as an activity code, I do not need the description. All I need is the functional location value, that code value that goes in. The description will already be there, just like we did with the cost account. I want to show you how I come up with my activity IDs. A lot of people do it different ways. This is just a method, but this is going to give you the opportunity to see how to concatenate or put things together. So I've got the operation and the actual work order. These are the only two things that are unique about an activity, and every activity ID, as we know, has to be unique. So I'm going to grab the work order number, and I'm going to put a dot right between the two just so I can separate those. So you'll see how I did that. And then actually put the operation, then hit enter, and fill that down once I get that formula right there into the end of the spreadsheet. The activity IDs have to be unique, and there's one thing that if you use Excel imports a lot, you're going to find out that you do not want to make changes to activity IDs in Excel. If you're going to make changes, I would make that in Primavera, but if you're going to run a first pass into Primavera, I would create smart IDs if you like to use smart IDs. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste the values to get rid of the formulas. So the formulas are gone. I'm going to delete this because I no longer need this. We'll need the operations. And the actual work order that I have here, the cost accounts are already set, but these are the IDs now that are related, the cost account values that are related to the activities. So this is all going to tie back together on a major import when we start importing all of our activities. Another thing I'll do is just like I did in the cost account view and the functional location or the equipment piece that I was working on, is I'm going to clean all the descriptions up. Some of them you'll see the names are cut short. But we'll come back and look at these, but at least this gives me the opportunity as a scheduler to get a feel for what's in the schedule, move things around, and look at things before I actually push all the data into Primavera. A lot of people do this with Access databases. I just wanted to do this class on, or this little session on Excel, because a lot of people do know how to use Excel, and it makes it very easy. And I'll type in the description of what the headers are in Primavera. So that's my activity description. My functional location, I already have this set up as an activity code. So I'm going to call this TA underscore functional location for a turnaround activity code. And this is just the value. The description's already sitting in Primavera. And I'm going to kind of make this bold where it sticks out just a little bit. Now, and what I'm doing, I think I've got about 3,000 activities that we're going to be working with here. And remember, we're doing this, you can do this in a matter of a few hours, and it can be less time if you do this over a long period of time. So let me go ahead and close. I'm back into Primavera. I'm going to close my cost accounts. Come down to my user preferences, because you want to make sure one thing on an import of activities is correct, and that's your time units. Turnarounds, you definitely want it to be in hours. And if you do keep decimal places or plan activities down to a 30-minute increment, you want to put your decimal places to a 1 or a 2 where you can actually see this. If not, it's going to roll up to the 1 for 30-minute jobs. And as you can see, is in these plans, they did plan down to the half hour. So I set that up. So now that I've taken the time to scrub that down, I'm going to show you how to do the work breakdown structure. The work breakdown structure is something that we have standard. If it's standard, this is very, very easy, but I'm going to show you in one file where I have just a few WBS elements in here. I've got some activities, so you're going to see some of these pop up in my exports and imports. But if you'll look at my work breakdown structure, we create a standard work breakdown structure, so the import process is very, very simple. I'm going to add a new structure here, one that's missing. I'm going to add the piping and valves. And we set our turnaround work breakdown structures up by equipment classification. So I can find this equipment very quick, and I can put this equipment up. But I'm going to show you how I grab the equipment and I put it up into the actual work breakdown structure. And here's what it looks like from the activity view. And I'm going to add an activity, and I just set this activity here because if you put an activity at the lowest level of the work breakdown structure and you export this to Excel, what it does is it brings the actual code value to the parent. So this will help if you have placeholders in there. Now I'm going to go back to Excel, and we're looking at the TA functional location. But what I want you to look at is in this functional location, I'm concentrating on what type of equipment this is. And I've seen that this is all my valves. So I'm going to grab all those valves, and I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste them over here. So I rearranged my data in my Excel spreadsheet. I grabbed every single one of the valves, and I'll put them on this sheet. Now I'll name them sheet 1 for valves at the bottom. I'm going to remove all the duplicates and find out that I've only got, 5 valves that we're working with. So all the duplicates are gone. These are the work orders that we're actually doing work on. This is the SAP number. If you want to keep the SAP number, you can. I'm going to get rid of it, and I'm going to show you how I've used a little formula here to grab the actual piece of equipment or the valve number. And I'm going to put the valve number in a couple of different places, and we'll go through this process. So first off, I grab the number. This is going to be my WBS ID. So under piping and valves, you'll see this number here. Now I'm going to paste the values. And I'm going to get rid of that. And now I'm going to do something a little bit extra. And a lot of people, you don't have to do this, but a lot of people do. People like seeing this in the schedule because they want to know what the equipment number is, because as you see, the description may be the same. I'm going to put these two together. And what I'm building is the actual WBS description, but it's going to have the equipment number in with the description for reporting purposes. So I put a space in here when I put these cells together, and you'll see they come out together, and I'm going to fill this down and take the formulas out by pasting special. Then I'll delete this just to where I have that. So I got my work breakdown structure ID. I'm going to save it with my work breakdown structure description. So now I'm going to get the SDK, and this SDK, I'm going to enable the macros here. This SDK is just strictly for the work breakdown structure. I'm going to log into it exactly like I logged into the dictionary SDK. I'm going to update the list. for my specific turnaround, and you can drop down and get that. And I'm going to get the WBS. And here's the work breakdown structure that we just did. And you'll see my PV for piping and valves. And I know I've got 6 valves that I have to put under this specific WBS element. So instead of having to type in every single one in, you could have 1,000 valves that we just cleaned up in Excel, and now we're going to go put into to Primavera. And we're going to utilize the SDK to do this. So I'm going to insert some rows right in between or underneath the piping and valve. And the parent ID, which is very important, is going to be PV because we just created that. So I'm going to copy my PV, and you have to use the whole code. This is critical on the actual activities going back to that code structure. And right here, I'm going to copy from my Excel spreadsheet. And I'm going to come over to the SDK. I'm going to paste this in here. All right, here. And I didn't clean these up. I probably should have cleaned these up, equals proper, and made that nice and neat, but I think you have an idea how that works. Go back to my login, and then I'll get these set, and I'm going to push these to Primavera. And let me go and open Primavera here, and I'm going to refresh the database, and you'll see it populate in the back. And there they are. So there's my 6 valves. So if it's 6 or 600, it's very easy, very quick to do, and every piece of equipment is ready to go. And here's the reason that I actually put the equipment ID on the front, so we can see that in the view. We got the number there visible for us. That's why I concatenated those two together. Okay, and now move this activity down. I'm going to make a placeholder for the activity, and the only reason I make the placeholder is so all activities will have a WBS code to go to, and I do this for every single one of them. And generally we have templates set up for this that makes this process a lot easier. So let me go ahead and export this, and this part probably a lot of people know. We're just going to export this to an Excel format. So we have all of our structures created. Our WBS is good. Cost accounts. I'm going to activities here. Generally, I use the resource assignment for exporting resources or importing the resources in the work centers, but we're not going to do that. I'll just show you how to do a basic export. And on a basic export, what we're looking for is the ID, which is our work order and our operation, the WBS code, which we have the placeholder sitting in, the original duration, start, and finish. And I'm going to show you why I do the start and the finish, and a little bit of learning about that. And I'll map it to a place where I want to export it to. And then finished. And our export was successful. So now we're ready to populate tons and tons of activities. If we have all the structure created and everything is exactly like we like it, we can start pushing data into the schedule via the Excel spreadsheets. The SDKs have already done their work and populated the dictionaries and the WBS structures. And I'm just going to grab a few activities. Like I generally grab tons, but I'm going to grab a few. Here's our export. And with the exports, you're going to see we've got all the existing activities were in there, but you'll see the placeholder. And that placeholder, what I'm really looking for in a placeholder activity is that WBS code field, that ID code field. So I don't have to remember that or type that in. I just put all the valves that are associated with that one underneath there on my import. Some people do this and take the time to do it in Excel. Some people import everything in and move this manually in Primavera once they get it there. But I'm going to show you how to put it under a specific WBS. Some of the things in that spreadsheet you don't want to mess with is your starts and your finishes, and you'll recognize that from the bracket and an asterisk in the middle. Now I'm back on my original Excel spreadsheet that I've been cleaning up. And I'm gonna focus just on a few activities. Generally, like I said, I grab the entire columns and I copy and paste mass amounts of things into the Excel import spreadsheet. But right now, I'm just going to focus on just a few piping and valves that are related to a specific piece of equipment. So I'm going to paste the data in here, kind of clean it up. I'm going to copy the WBS code, and this is the actual work order that's associated with that piece of equipment. I'm going to save this data, and you'll see my dates and my durations. The dates I leave blank because I'm going to let Primavera calculate that. Let me minimize this. I'm going to save the spreadsheet and close it. Go back to my activities view. So here's the piece of equipment. Now I'm going to import. I'm just going to reverse the process and import the activities into this specific piece of equipment. Go next. I'm going to grab the spreadsheet here. Go next. And I'm going to import the activities. If I resource loaded, I could get those as well. I'm going to select the file that I want to import to, which is my TA turnaround file. And then finish. And you'll see it populate in the back. There they are. Let me move this box here. And there they are. There's if I had one work order or 50 work orders on this particular piece of equipment, which is just an RV, they would all populate underneath where they're supposed to based on the WBS ID. Or the WBS code. So, like I said, some people don't. They just put all the data at the top and they grab that data and they move it down into it. But I like to take the time in Excel to clean this up. Now we can come in here, highlight the activities, and if you want to link those together, you can actually link those activities together. So we got the data structured, built, and actually moved into Primavera via the SDKs.